for joining us today. My name is Dawn LeBeau. I'm a program officer here with Akiptan. A little bit about Akiptan. So we are a native CDFI, or a community development financial institution. We do financing in native agriculture. We're located on the Cheyenne River Lakota Nation in Eagle Butte, South Dakota, and we serve those in native ag nationwide. I also have my coworker Justine Kogel here. She's also a program officer, and Sarah Frelzy, one of our loan officers here. All right. Okay, so our mission here at Akiptan is to, one, transform the native agriculture and food economies by delivering creative capital through our lending, leading paradigm changes, and enhancing producer prosperity across Indian country. This is our website here for those of you who would like to check out a lot of our products and services. We get this question a lot. So Akiptan is the Lakota word for working together in a cooperative effort. And this is reflective in our lending philosophy. We won't go too in depth about that today because we'll be talking about tech and ranching today, but all of this information is on our website. So CDFIs are like banks in the sense that we provide loans, but you cannot deposit money. So we're a little different than banks because we provide technical assistance with our loans. And this TA, they call it TA, comes in the form of business and goal planning, succession planning, financial literacy trainings, and any other type of support that our borrowers need. So while there are laws that we have to follow, we are unregulated, and this is what allows us to be flexible with our lending, and this also allows us to be innovative in all of our programming. We focus on our lending philosophy, which is long-term, patient, innovative capital. We work with our producers to find solutions with them rather than for them. We literally look at our producers as partners, and we value the relationships with them. Their success is our success. And in the next slide, we will talk a little bit more about our numbers. Okay. So since our inception in 2019, we have reached 28 tribal nations. We have committed 27 million in loan capital, and we have completed 399 number of loans. Okay. So to speak a little bit about our products and services, we offer a variety of, one second, I'm having a tech issue here. Oh, there we go. So we offer a variety of loan products and services, and they're all designed to increase the agriculture economy in Indian country. Our financial and technical assistance products and services are always evolving so that we can meet the needs of our producers. So we have a youth loan, a general loan, an operating loan and line of credit, as well as a land mortgage and down payment assistance loan. With this comes that TA, that technical assistance, in the form of business and goal planning, succession planning, marketing assistance, and financial literacy training. And we'll talk about our curriculums at the end of the presentation here today. We have a lot of cool things that we've worked on. So producers have access to growing their operations financially and being armed with knowledge to be successful. So eligibility for our lending products includes that you must be involved in the native agriculture field. So it's anything on the food chain from initial retail or initial production to retail. And this can include, but it's not limited to, farming and ranching, fishing and timber, or retail value-added products. So because of our bylaws and policies, we have to be using our funds to support production agriculture in some form. And this doesn't include things like rodeo ag or agritourism. But it's definitely okay to come to us with an idea, and we will do our best to get you to a final business plan. All right. If you have any questions specifically related to our lending, you're welcome to reach out to us. Our contact information is on our website. All right, so let's get into the webinar today. We'll be talking about technology and ranching. You'll see that Craig Harry also joined us. He is also one of our other program officers with us. Let's see here. I don't know why my computer decides to freeze on me. Okay, we're good. So a lot of you are probably cow-calf operators with us, maybe some value-added producers, but today we wanted to talk about technology and ranching and visit about the apps that we have on our phones, some of the Excel tools that we have to help our operations to be more successful, and talk about some of the challenges that come with that as well. So we have so many applications that we can utilize on our iPhones, our smartphones. And we want to hear a little bit from you all about what you're using and how that has increased the effectiveness of your operation in different ways. So you're welcome to unmute, you're welcome to use the chat box, but we'll be visiting about 3 different apps and then do like a quick overview at the end of others that we know of. And then at the closeout, you guys are welcome to let us know what types of things that you are using that we didn't mention today. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is drones. Drones can be very helpful in these different ways. So you can check the weather, you can check on your range unit when you're away, or even when you are nearby and you can't get to certain places in your operation. We're going to go over a couple of examples here of the different real life things that some of our producers have used drones for. You can use them for aerial images, and this helps with understanding any kind of overgrazing, erosion you may see, weed infestation, helps you with your rotation schedules. Can also be helpful with irrigation, gate checking, pasture checking. So with weather, I guess when you're away from your operation, it's beneficial to help keep an eye on things with that. A lot of these drones you can hook up to your phone, take images from what they call like a bird's eye view. As for range checking, when you're out looking for maybe a calf, it could be useful for things like that. If it's in the draw that you can't easily get to, or if there's like bad weather and you can't get out there, that's another thing that you can use this for. And I feel like I'm speaking to the choir here. Some of you may have a drone and maybe utilizing it, or maybe you have some challenges with that. As for the aerial images, lots of these pictures can be utilized in so many different ways. I'd like to bring Craig in to talk just a little bit about drones and how he has seen use of these either in his operation or folks that he knows, or even Justine, if you want to talk about a little bit of uses that you have seen or would like to visit about.
Go ahead, Justine. I can't click on my camera. It says you have me blocked on the clicking on my camera.
Oh, Craig, but we want to see you. I'll let
Try it
John try
now,
and
Craig.
troubleshoot that. One of the things that we've always talked about, guys, with drones, we operate up here on the Crow Reservation near the Pryor and Wolf Mountains. And one of the things that we haven't actually invested in a drone, but after doing this webinar, it really makes me want to. we have a lot of gates going into other pastures, and oftentimes it's about a 60-mile round trip to get to all of the gates and checking them where you need to. We get a lot of traffic in the summer. We have a lot of cultural relevance where we actually are located, and so there's a lot of people in and out all the time, and sometimes gates get left open, and so um, typically either my husband or son jumps on a dirt bike and we go and do the 60-mile loop to check all of the gates, a couple times a week. But notoriously, there's always cattle out. And one of the things that, as a group, we had discussed how cool it would be to be able to just, because with a drone, it would take probably a half hour to just go and check your gates, make sure they're up. If they're not up, okay, I know I need to go and get that one put up. Or check your fence lines. We have lots of storms in the spring that take down the big pine trees often, and for whatever reason, they always land on a fence. They can't just land in an open nothing. It's always on a fence. So it'd be nice to be able to utilize a drone to really check through our gates and fences on our operation. It would save us time. It would save us fuel, wear and tear on our rigs for sure. Craig, what about you guys?
Same thing. We're looking at investing in a drone now also. Like we have a field that's pretty hard to get to once it gets a little bit of rain, gets so slick and everything to where we're close enough to the house. We could fly a drone over to check our irrigation, different areas like that. I've seen folks use them on their pivots where you don't have to go stomping through the water to find a place. You could fly your drone down, check your sprinkler heads. If you have any kind of problems, different areas like that is where I see it really beneficial. Also, your range unit checking, you're able to really map out your dead areas or your erosion areas when you're flying over them, kind of like just like the GS system. You're able to kind of see where your green is, where your green isn't, and you're able to take pictures of those, snapshot, kind of draw out where maybe your cows shouldn't really be due to erosion. Also weather events, checking your water gaps. Maybe you don't need to be crawling through a bunch of brush to get down to check a water gap or anything like that. And you're able to fly your drone right in there to see if your fence is still up. Any tough areas that it takes time, money, and fuel to get to is where I really see these drones beneficial. Try to save that producer the bottom line cost of checking stuff. Just like Justine said, if you could save yourself 60 miles of fuel, that's going to add up at the end of the year. So that's where I really see these drones being beneficial. And we're, like I said, in our own operation, we're looking into investing in one also.
All right. Thanks, guys. Cass is asking what types of drones are good to use, and we have a couple examples that we're going to go through in the next few slides, Cass. So, but we are curious to what other things would you guys use your drones for, if you want to put in the chat, things you already do, things that you think you could do. We kind of covered them all in that one slide, but there's always things we can use technology for, right? So if you would like, please put an answer in the chat while we move through the next slide here. All right, so there are things that we need to consider when we're buying and investing in this type of equipment, right? So things to consider would be cost, image stability on the product, what type of phone you have, and is it compatible with the drone that you're going to buy? And all of these things will be listed out to you when you purchase it. The research is going to be helpful with all of that stuff. Is it easy to learn? Like some of us, and you'd think that me being in my age group would know a lot about technology, but my dad, he bought a drone for his cow-calf operation, and he used it way better than I could. He hooked it up to his phone and he tested it out, and he used it for a good 6 months, but there were some challenges with that too. So that one was easy for him to learn. So you're going to want to consider that. Battery life, like what does that charge look like? How long can you use it out in the field? Are there any local training courses that you can attend? I saw a couple on the internet at a local tribal community nonprofit. They were hosting a drone class one day, and I can share that in the follow-up email. It's coming up here pretty shortly. But there's also online classes that you can invest in, and some of them you might be able to get a scholarship to attend, but the rate that I have seen these classes go for start at like $100 per class, and they're online, they're local. They're in the farmers, ranchers organizations that exist. So there's lots of options to getting yourself equipped and knowledgeable around how to run a drone. You also want to consider the investment, right? And I think Justine and Craig talked about that, and having to either buy fuel or go out in a storm, and what is the cost of that, and what is the comparison of that. And then technical challenges, right? My dad whizzed right through learning his drone. I had challenges and he was trying to reach out to me for it. We ended up getting on the phone for a couple of things to like map through those challenges, but got to think about all of these things. What is the investment? What is the cost? Sean wrote in the chat, is there a good drone that handles the wind? That's a great question. That's not something I considered when I looked at all of the different styles. But to go back to Cass's question, the cost that I have seen could start at $360, and then it moves up from there. You could really invest in these things, and it could go up to about $2,000, but you have to think about the investment too. Like, are you going to use it a lot? Is the cost going to be effective there? But some of the brands that I have come across included like, and I'm not familiar with these brands, but I looked all of them up, and there's Sick, ATTOP, Holy Stone, but there are so many different ones out there. And I will share our links to the things that we have found when looking all of this stuff up. So that's a great question though, Cass and Sean. I didn't see any type of challenges with the wind, but you know, for those of us that live in the upper plains, we know all of those challenges with the wind. So I'm going to note that down, Sean, and see what we can find on that part. All right, so that kind of closes out our drone stuff, but you are welcome to put in the chat anything you would like about drones from here on out. I'm always happy to go back to those slides. But the next thing that we want to talk about is cameras. So cameras can be a really good tool, inexpensive or expensive, depending on the model that you get. But I've seen these helpful in many ways, specifically for monitoring animals. Even while you're out working on your operation, it's easy to just open up your phone, check all your cameras, especially like during calving season or in your barns. So for all of those things, very helpful. Observing weather conditions while you're away from the operation. And there's a lot more things. Just monitoring the property that you're stewarding is really important. So let's go ahead and open the chat up to what other things you use your cameras for, or what could you use your cameras for. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Craig or Justine if you want to visit just a little bit about some of the things that you use your cameras for, or if you plan on purchasing some.
I don't have any cameras personally that I use, but another good point I see using cameras in is to kind of for backup for your lip. So us that live in predatory conditions, and you're losing calves to bears or to mountain lions or different areas like that, you're able to kind of set your cameras up in those areas, get snapshots of the predators in that area to kind of back up your livestock indemnity. outlooks in your claims. So that's one of the big beneficiaries I see to using a camera, other than what was mentioned there, is helping kind of back up your programs that you use for your cattle.
Right.
With that being said, you know, one of the things that we've had the most issue with, I think, and this is just because we, on one side of us, we have an easement into a state lease, actually, not a tribal lease, but a state lease. And that easement is also where our livestock water. And the gentleman who neighbors that easement likes to lock the gate and lock the critters off of water. And so when you come into those situations where, you know, maybe you have to get a legal situation to make sure that your livestock are safe, those cameras can come in very handy. We had some questions in here. What kind of camera could you use? What type of good camera is good to use in the pasture? That's really going to be dependent on where you're located and what accessibility you have. We have some game cameras set up that help us with a number of different things. But one of those is, you know, just ensuring that our cattle are safe. And if we need documentation, we have that there. We have another area where it's notorious for bears and mountain lions. So we have one that kind of sets up and spans a little bit wider. So we can keep a better eye on the herd when they're in that area. But it really depends on the accessibility you have. If you can bounce off of internet usage, if you can bounce off of cell phone towers, that can all be dependent on what type of, like, a game camera that you might use out in a pasture. In the areas where we have no service, which is a lot of, like, my personal pasture, we use cameras with just a little SD card that don't read real time, but we have to go out and check them like once a week just to make sure things are going well. During those tumultuous times when we're struggling with whatever it happens to be, we'll check those more often. But typically, almost anymore, you can find a way to have, you know, whether it be a Verizon service or Straight Talk or whatever, that will read back to those game cameras. So we've used, it's called Moultrie is one that we have used. And then the other one that we have used, I think it's like I'm trying to remember what it's a Bushnell. It's a little fancier, I guess, but so those are, you know, just a couple of brands that come to mind of stuff that we've actually used. I just went into Cabela's and said, hey, this is what I need. And, you know, for $100, they were able to hook us up with what we needed and tell us how it needed to be set up. And I look at that as, you know, $100 investment, whether it's a predator situation or lip, like Craig was saying, or a watering situation. If that saves an animal's life, to me, that's well worth it. So.
And right along in there, you know, people are using them in their calving barns and on their heifer pens, and that can mean the difference. Say if you're in town and all of a sudden you're able to check your cameras on your phone, that can mean the difference of saving you what, a $3,500 heifer right now, you know, and an $1,800 calf. So when you look at purchasing technology for your operation, it's really looking at that long-term investment of what you're going to save, and like we said, what you're going to end up adding to your bottom line by investing in some of these products for your operation. So
Right. Thanks, guys. And so as far as cost, I've seen them start anywhere from like $200 for a set of 3. We have different coworkers that have cow-calf operations, and they use something called Arlo. And that's about, I don't know, I think it's a $200 system, and you can see what's going on day to day. And I think on those ones, you can zoom in and out and see further out. But these also come with like a monthly subscription fee at times, and that can be anywhere from $2 to $20 a month. So your annual cost can just vary, anywhere from like $200 a year to $600 a year. But like Craig and Justine said, you compare that to losing a cow or a calf, it's beneficial because you can get somebody there to help mitigate those things. The other one I want to mention is cattle cams. We have somebody that also uses those. They set them up all around their property. They're able to watch their calves right now. And those ones were quite spendy, up in the like 2,000, 3,000 mark, but depending on the size of your operation, it might be worth the investment. And I actually got to see on her phone, she zoomed really far out into the pasture and you could see miles out, which was mind-blowing to me because I have some property cameras too, but they are not as fancy as those ones. So yeah, if there's something happening, you'll get an alert on your phone. There's some of those cameras have like a motion detector in them, and you get a little alert like something's happened on your property. And it can be any of the examples that Craig and Justine spoke to. So perfect. Yeah. And we'll send links to things that we found that other folks have found useful. And the one thing that Justine mentioned is, can you hook it up to Wi-Fi? Are you going to have to use a cattle cam, or not a cattle cam, a game cam? And those game cams can go anywhere from $80 to $300. We bought the $80 ones because there was, we don't know what it was, but there was some sort of animal out bothering the property, not really bothering the animals, but we put them on my dad's barn. Those were $80. We put an SD card in them. Never found what was bothering them, but it kind of gave us some peace of mind that nothing was coming around in the times that we monitored. But you have to take the SD card out, pop it into your laptop, and you can see what's going on. And those SD cards are anywhere from like $16 to $20. So cost efficient, if you ask me, All right. So the next thing we'll talk about is virtual grazing. This is another tool that can be utilized for the following things: remote monitoring, no physical fencing. There's a lot to be discussed in this area. It can reduce labor imprints, and it can be used in areas that are difficult to fence. A lot of different moving pieces with the virtual grazing. They use satellite connected collars to keep the livestock in their spaces that you want them at, right, in that geographic positioning area. And then it coordinates with what they call a base. So it's remote monitoring, and they're created to help reduce any kind of like manual labor fencing. Things to consider when utilizing virtual grazing is cost, area, and what size your operation is. So I'm curious to see if anybody in the room has considered this or is currently looking at it. I know that there is some talk about it. I've sat in on a couple webinars over the past year and a half about the expenses of it, the feasibility of it. Craig or Justine, would you like to add to any of this?
I would just add that virtual grazing, I guess it's really dependent on where you're at. But we have listed there where it can be useful in areas that are difficult to fence, like along your rivers, like I said, checking your water gaps, different areas like that, where you don't have to put fence into the river every year and lose it due to flooding or different areas like that. So it does save. I mean, you're going to be spending some money on it, but again, you're saving money in fencing, time, fuel, doing all this different other stuff. Those are areas that I really see that could be useful for long river areas. Maybe in your range units, if you're in bigger range units and mountain range units, putting them on more of your expensive cattle, such as your bulls or your replacement heifers, making sure that you're just kind of securing that investment also, where it could save you some time, going into check canyons and different areas like that. You're able to look at where your phones are or where your cattle are on your phone, your bulls, different areas like that. Now, like I said, it would be really due to what your landscape is. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So really picking out the spots where you're going to utilize it and where it could be easily implemented is a key factor to it.
So if anybody has considered virtual fencing, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. But as far as costs go, what I have seen in understanding it and reading about it, nowadays they say that barbed wire fences that crisscross on the landscape can cost anywhere from $18,000 to $20,000 per mile. And the total cost for a virtual fence, and these are not numbers set in stone. This is just what we have pulled for cost, but the total cost is under $40,000 for virtual fencing. And this could be equivalent to building 2 to 3 miles of new hard fence. So the concept of being able to constantly monitor your cattle across the ranges can reduce like different other things like overgrazing, soil erosion, things like that. What I have seen in cost for the base that I mentioned, it can be up to $10,000. And then of course you have to get the little monitors that go on the cow. And what I found in my research there is they're about $40 for that collar is what they call it. So if anybody's interested in looking at the articles that I have pulled for these to see if it's something that would benefit your operation, you'll get all of the links in our follow-up email, but we are interested in hearing from folks across the nation to see if this is something that you've considered or you want more information on. We did a webinar last year with Delaney from Inca, and he spoke a little bit about it. He's from down south, so I'll share that webinar as well. So
another thing that's available with them, and to look at different range units that maybe ran in common or big range units that have quite a few neighbors right next to them, is they also make trailers, satellite trailers that you can move along. So whenever you move your cows, you could pull them trailers along and set them up in different service areas. They are quite expensive. I'm thinking like into the $15,000 to $20,000 range. But like I said, if you're running in common with folks, those are things that you're able to spread out between producers to protect everybody's investment on those areas, So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about has definitely a financial piece to it, but like we're talking, it's the long-term investment to the technology that's coming, So looking at like I said, the bigger range units, that they could be a good idea for producers to get together that run in common and share that cost, so it doesn't just land on one producer.
right. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, so there's been a lot of testing happening with this in different areas. So in some places it's been proven to be effective, and other places there's still additional testing that needs to be evaluated for like larger rangeland settings. So very interesting to see how this technology can be an investment or something that we can adapt to. But I did find some funding opportunities online for these type of innovations, and I'll share that in the follow-up email too. So, all right. We're about 40 minutes in, so we'll just move along here. We have Sarah here with us that's going to talk about a couple of the record keeping tools that we've come across. One of them is Cattle Max. This is a great tool for record keeping, organizing any of your cattle records and keeping all of your ranch records in one place. So They also have an app for this, so you can track your inventory, look at your breeding, your KPMs, any herd treatments that you have applied, sales, any import-export records. So if any of you all have used CattleMax, we would like to hear from you as well. I know a lot of folks actually just use Excel sheets, which is also a very organized tool. But today we'll just focus on one sheet from CattleMax and look at that. And then also look at an Excel sheet that Sarah has created and has been an effective source for her to keep things organized. So things to consider when you're looking at any of these type of tools is always cost, right? And is it user friendly? So when I was looking at the CattleMax tool, they have different features for the size of your operation. So if you're doing a commercial style operation or something that is registered, it is anywhere from, well, it starts at like $8 a month for the amount of active animals that you have. And then you can move that up to like $50 for about 500 active animals. And the features change based on whatever program that you sign up for. They also have a trial feature. So if you're interested in checking this out, we will send the links, of course, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Sarah so she can talk about one of the features that she has found user-friendly and beneficial for use. And I'll just share the screen.
Yeah, thanks, Dawn. Everyone bear with me. I do work with a toddler who is cooped up inside with the rain today. So if you hear squeaking in the background, please just ignore it. So I used CattleMax for a couple years to track our herd, and I did like it. I was tracking a lot of animals though, so it was a little pricey for us. But you can do a lot of things with it. If you have a large herd that you have commercially, but then you also have just a select few animals that you are tracking because they have really good genetics or anything like that, you don't have to track your entire herd. You can just pick and choose, and that can lower the cost for you as well. As long as you know which cows you like better than other cows, which I think most of us have favorites. So you don't have to track the entire herd for it to be beneficial. But like I did track my entire herd, and I tracked almost everything we did. So every time the cows were moved, every time that we pushed them through a chute, every time they got a shot, every time we preg checked, every cow was given an update on here. The sheet that we're showing here is just one of the many reports you can pull. So after you're done entering everything you've done with the animals, you can print like a quarterly, monthly, yearly report, whatever you want to do. This one is for your purchases for the year. So this shows that on this record sheet, 74 cows were purchased and 4 bulls were purchased in this calendar year. And it basically does a rundown and tells you what the cow's identification is, whether you're doing ear tags or something else. It tells you what the identification is of the purchased animal, what type of animal it is, be it like bulls, cows, calves, heifers, anything like that. It'll differentiate there, the birth date of those animals, so you can track what ages you have, the purchase date, so you know when those were purchased, the price. Looks like these were only tracking certain purchases. So that is skewed a little. It says for all the animals total, it was only 11,000, but it looks like it was 11,000 for just a select couple of them. So it tells you a lot. It can tell you the average purchase price of what you are purchasing. It can tell you the total of what you purchased through the year. And then, like I said, what types of animals you purchased, which is really handy to bring into your accountant at the end of the year. So he knows what was purchased and for how much, so he can add that to your assets and for your depreciation tables. I know they always like keeping track of things like that. And so it does make it way easier to keep track of actually what you have entering. There are sales reports you can pull too, so you can keep track of what enters your property and what exits it, and exactly how much the cost was of purchasing or the income was for selling, and then what types of animals came and went. So that's that report, I guess. I can go into, what's that?
I was just gonna say that Justine said, and we all know how much our accountant loves us when we come in with a shoebox of receipts.
I almost went the accounting route in life, so I try and come into my accountant's office as prepared as possible because I would hate to be on the other side of that desk. But yeah, there's a lot you can do with Cattle Max. I mean, this is just one specific report that we're showing as far as like going more in depth on what this can do. But you can do everything. You can track your animals, what you do with them. You can track where they are. It has a section where you can input your pastures. You can input what cattle are where. You can input your equipment, and you can input things like upgrades to the equipment or repairs to the equipment, be that like oil changes, so you can track exactly when those were to make sure that you're maintaining your equipment well. I mean, it's really unlimited as to what you can do. So many features on Cattle Max. If you are into knowing exactly what's going on with your cattle and exactly where they are, what's happening with them, and down to the dollar and cent of what's going on, this is phenomenal. But it does only work if you are on top of it. Same thing with things like the Excel sheets we're going to get into. The more on top of this you are, the better it's going to work for you. And if you are paying for it, like this is a pretty pricey piece of software depending on when or on how many animals you are tracking. So if you are going to pay for it, as long as you keep on with it, it's phenomenal. It can tell you a lot about your operation. If you don't, you're paying for nothing essentially. So that it is that's the kicker with all technology, I guess, that we've talked about, is that you really have to know exactly how much you're going to utilize it for it to pay off. But if you use it well, this is very beneficial.
Yeah, and Sarah, Sean said in the chat
Sean
that,
said it's for genetics.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And there are some online classes.
Yeah, that
you
brings
can
up a good
take
point.
on there,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, Dawn.
No, I was just gonna say that there's online classes that folks can get on and learn about all the cool things, because it looks very robust. Yeah.
It is quite limitless, yeah, but Sean brings up a good point. You can track your bulls and cows and their offspring all the way down the line. So if you have favorites like we all do, you can keep track of exactly where they are and what offspring they're having for keeping those genetics in your herd.
All right, Sarah, you ready for me to go to the next slide?
You bet.
There you go.
Just over here being excited because I want you guys to all know, like, we are so lucky to have Sarah here at Akiptan, and she has taken what she's learned from Cattle Max and what she has learned. Sorry, Sarah, I'm going to boast for you a minute. But she has taken what she's learned from Cattle Max and the ranching world and developed Excel-based sheets that you can utilize, and is giving us all the ability to do this. And she's a rock star. And if you guys ever need anything on the financial, business planning type stuff, Sarah's our girl. She's really developed a core set of Excel sheets here to help all of us not go into the accountant with the shoebox.
Right.
Yeah, so that's our next set here, is tracking sheets specifically for Excel. There's nothing you can't track. As long as you have the right setup in Excel, you can get the info you want without paying a bunch of money. So obviously this is through Word documents. But I did want to mention that we're going to talk about Excel. That's what I'm used to. That's what I've always dealt with. But if you're a Mac user, I believe Numbers is their version of Excel that comes free with Mac product or with Apple products. And I'm not sure if there's anything else similar to it, but I mean, it doesn't have to specifically be Excel. You can always use what you have available to you. So then the tracking sheet that we have pulled up here is just for tracking your expenses. So I, at the end of every year, have the absolute pleasure of going through my husband's receipts, his stacks of receipts, his blank checkbooks, and trying to read the carbon copies of whatever checkbook has been rolling around the dash of his pickup all year. And I got a little sick of it. So I went in and I created some expense and income sheets for him. So basically, what he does every night, and he's phenomenal about this. I don't know if he's scared of me or if he actually cares about his finances, but every night, or every other night, he comes in the house and he writes down any checks that he wrote. And that's the sheet we have pulled up. It's the date the check was written, who the check was written to, the amount, the check number, and the description. So this is essentially a printout of your like carbon copies or like your checkbook track sheet, but it's on a large enough format that you're not having to thumb through like 3 or 4 small checkbooks at the end of the year. It's all compiled in one place, and you don't have to like sift through and try and find everything. And the description column is obviously going to be better than the memo line on a check. You can actually write out what's for what. So like if you wrote one check for $500, 250 of it was for random supplies, and then 250 of it was specifically for like mineral. Your accountant's going to want to know the difference between general supplies and mineral. If you're just writing this on a memo sheet on a checkbook, the likelihood of you having room to write that, not very large. On something like this, you can actually tell what's what. So like I said, as long as you keep up with it and you write down exactly every single check that you've written, it's a really great way to track your expenses without having to keep track of multiple checkbooks and do like just the receipt war that we all have. So it doesn't have to just be checks. This is specifically a check sheet we have pulled up, but you can just do like if you have a specific ranch card and you don't want to thumb through all the statements, then you can just put like the last 4 digits of the card so you know which card it came from. Same situation. We do have this for income as well. Same thing. Anytime a check is written, it's or anytime we receive a check, sorry, then date, who gave us the check, what was the amount, why did they pay us. So really simple things there. Excel's really great to do this for. Like the sheets that you utilize don't have to be really advanced. They don't have to have formulas that fill themselves. You don't have to fill them out digitally. You can make these, and we will be sending all these out to you guys as well. We have a whole packet worth of sheets that you're going to get, but it doesn't have to be anything really sophisticated that you have to sit down at a computer for. You can make these, print these, and then not look at your computer the rest of the year if you want to. But it is a really nice way to keep things organized.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Like she said, we'll send a folder out with all of the cool tools that she has created. And I promise you they will be helpful. Setting down and making the time to do this monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever you choose is going to help your operation in the long run. Other things that we have here at Akiptan are balance sheets, our cash flow sheets, our projection sheets, and these are all available to each of you for free on our website. But those will be in the follow-up email as well. Other things that Sarah hasn't gone over is inventory and preg checking sheets too. So please keep a lookout for those. And if you have any questions or are kind of overwhelmed with them, we're here to help you. Just reach out to any one of us and we'll help you move along in those areas. All right.
I believe that you will, but you can also, I'll just type my email in the chat here. If you guys receive these sheets and you have any questions about developing them further for your operation, or if you just want to be like, hey, I don't quite understand how this works, shoot me an email. I mean, I developed them, so there's nothing I can't walk you through. And if you want to develop them further, we can start with what I have and go from there. So this isn't just cut and dried. We can work with you guys on.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you. All right. If there's any questions on those, you're welcome to place them in the chat or follow up with us in the end. There's Sarah's email in the chat box. We're getting close to the hour. So thank you, Craig and Justine and Sarah, for all of your feedback and your help. Here are some additional apps that you can check out. There's the Angus mobile app. This is one of the nation's largest beef breed organizations. Check that out. It's a great source. Cattle Market app. This is also a tool for assisting users to staying up to date with the latest auction prices. And in that same breath, we did have a webinar presentation a couple months ago about the cattle market, and Mr. Daryl Pill, he also does, I think it's a weekly update on those things as well. So you're welcome to check out that webinar and hear what he has to offer on a weekly basis. Wearable cattle monitoring system, so that can be collars, ear tags, different things that help to accurately track how each cattle's cycle is, heart rate and movement location. And it just basically, these things help you to pinpoint the optimal times for successful conception and things like that. So please check those out if you have time. We will be having a social media marketing webinar coming up here in the next couple months. And so these are different tools that can help you to market what your operation does. And so you're welcome to join us for that webinar coming up as well. But there's all sorts of apps out there that can be beneficial to your operation. And I would encourage everybody to look them up and learn more about them. I do see your message in the chat here, Mike. Can you have someone go over the RFID tag requirements? So we are doing our research on our end to understand that completely and keeping up to date with that information. So Mike, we would be happy to reach out to you on the side. But there are some things coming through with that RFID tagging. I would recommend that you all do a Google search on that to get up to date to see where things are at. We just checked in with our programs team last week so we could get information out to folks. So we'll follow up with you on the side. And if anybody else would like information on that, we're happy to share with you. We'll put a link in the follow-up email for that too. So you all are up to date and knowledgeable on those things. So that concludes everything that we have for our technology and ranching today. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you all have other things going on, I'm going to run through just a few closeout things that we have going on in our programs department here at Akiptan. Sean, I see your note. Has anyone tried movement? Justine, Craig, have you all? No?
I have not heard of that yet. So now I'm over here Googling it, Sean. I'll be interested to learn more about it, or if anybody else has experience with it yet.
Thanks for alerting us to that, Sean. That's helpful. I'm adding it to my list as well. All right. So a couple of things that we worked on here at Akiptan is a 2022 market study. So through various data collection tools and method, we worked with Sweetgrass Consulting, assessing the current needs and barriers that exist for natives in agriculture. So our market study helped us to determine what unmet financing need is existing in Indian country for native producers. And we wanted to come up with solutions too. So we sought out input and experiences from all over Indian country, and it gave us insight into the unique opportunities, challenges, and goals that native producers have in each region. I'll go through our top, how many did we linked like 8 or 9 here, but we'll go through them. This is not capacity. The market study is filled with tons of recommendations. So the first one is $43 billion is needed is the unmet need for Native American producers. So like on average, one producer to be successful needs about 540,000 K per operator. So ways that we're finding solutions is we increased our loan max It's now 250,000, and we are always looking for ways to increase this. So like I said, we see the recommendation, we want to find solutions. So just to save on time, I won't go through all of these completely because we did come up with a lot of solutions to each of these. But the second thing is that most producers wanted to grow their operation either in volume or diversification. So we do webinars like this. We do some value added gardening program stuff. The next one is 43% of producers are wanting to know more information on land issues. So we've partnered with Indian Land Tenure Foundation to create webinars on information. We cover land issues in our curriculums. We do financing for land. The fourth recommendation is that 75% of participants have off-farm income. So we believe that you should be able to get your operations in a healthy cash flow so that operators aren't needing to also hold a full-time job off farm. So we focus on this in our TA. I won't go through the solutions on the rest of these, but I do want you all to see that these are some of the recommendations in that market study. It's on our website. You can read the entire PDF document. Please do so. There was a lot of participation, and we on our end at Akiptan are finding solution-based answers and things to help with these findings. All right, so we also have two partnerships. The North Central USDA Regional Food Business Center and the IAC National Intertribal Food Business Center. More information is coming on both of these, but please sign up for our newsletter. We're sharing information on both of these programs. These are both developed to help folks to create new value added change connections. Akiptan's role in this is to help get support to you all through funding, TA, and different things like that. So please sign up for our newsletter, watch our social medias. We'll be rolling out additional information on both of these partnerships. All right, so just a little bit more information on things that we have going on here. You may have seen us share our scholarship information. We just closed that out. We have developed this to help Native American high school seniors with funding or scholarships that will support their degree in higher education in Native agriculture. So keep an eye out for that. Let all your students know that that is something that we offer. It's anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending on the year. Opens in January, closes in April of every year. Students are always looking for funding, right? So we have that available. We also have our summer youth internship program. We had a lot of applicants for that. We host that every year. It closes in May of every year. We just closed it, so please let your students know if they are between the ages of 16 and 18. We have this internship opportunity every year here at Akiptan. Native Youth Business Plan Contest. This is a great opportunity for students ages 16 to 18 to develop a Native Ag business plan and win a cash prize. We do 1 to 3 different cash prizes for this. So this will be opening up again next year, but these are our youth programs. And so we want to help to support the next stewards of Native agriculture. All right, curriculums, you're welcome to scan all of these. It's 101, guys, and I don't want to take up a lot more of your time. Thank you for hanging in there with me, but all of these guides are available on our website. We have the financial management guide for cattle ranchers. That is a start to finish to help you with your operation. We have Introducing Native Agriculture, a guide for young entrepreneurs. That is also a very independent booklet for young folks that want to build their native ag business. So scan these codes, go on our website, check them out. They're available. And if you want a printed copy, we can mail one out to you. And then we have an agribusiness curriculum coming soon within the next couple of weeks. So please stay tuned for that. 2 other cool things, a succession planning guide. That was one of the recommendations in our market study. So we developed that. please utilize that for the future of your operations. Reach out to us if you want a printed copy. And then we have a rancher record keeping book, which speaks to all of the things that Sarah talked about in a written form. You can scan that and download it and do it online, or contact us for a physical copy. All right, things we have coming up next for webinars includes our using social media on June 13th, and then in July, diversifying your products. So please register for these by scanning the code or visiting our website. And as usual, we start at 12 noon Mountain Time, but we have free financial planning information on our website, another code that you can scan here. But to close us out, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate your feedback and your time. Sign up for a newsletter to keep up to date with all the cool things happening here at Akiptan. Very thankful for your time. Have a great day, everybody.